What's up, Rose? Me, the professor. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, you see that big old thing right there? That's my microphone that's about that far away from the camera. So, anyway, I hope you're loving this stuff today. So, anyway, we're going to talk about two things this morning, four topics off the top of my head, but I want you to do me a favor and just, in order to clear your mind of anything like preconceived ideas of what you're about to hear, I need you to do me a favor. And that's just take a few deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. You're going to do that in cycles of 30 seconds. So while I'm talking, you'll be able to open up your ears and open up your mind. Your eyes are part of your brain. So if your brain, for example, is foggy and you can't think clearly, there's a solution to all this because as the day goes on, you start to feel better and better. But what I do first thing in the morning is I have a balcony and there's a sunrise here that's unbelievable. So I go out on the balcony and I take several deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. But what I do right here is there's a bit of like a bone, there's a bone here, and you're just going to push back on your face a little bit. And then you're going to deeply inhale twice, one time and then an additional on top of it. So you do that in cycles of 30 seconds. So why I decided to talk about this topic today, well, there's a few reasons. It's because if you zoom out and you look at all institutions, schools, anything that has to do with something of order, you'll see that this has been a perpetual cycle for everyone. And it all comes down to our inability to metabolize alcohol as a society. There's nothing good that comes out of drinking alcohol. I know it's a social lubricant, but it also is one of those things that it's an inhibitor. And after a while, it stops working. See, it's all fun and games at first. It's always fun at first. And then it's problems. And at the end, it's nothing but problems. So there's two ways a lot of guys go when they're trying to get their life together. And if alcohol has like become a big problem, either by jail, which was the case for me, and or by terms on probation or something like that, they're required to go to X amount of AA meetings and they have a paper that they got to sign that obligates them to go to these meetings and not pencil whip them and put fake shit. Because if they have to check in with probation or if they just got out of prison, parole, for example, they're going to be subject to, like, you know, that crazy that the word subject to, if we looked up the words subject to in the Black's Law Dictionary, you'd understand why the correlation between the jail system and the AA system fills the the program of AA with a lot of institutionalized people that have no solutions, that only go through the process of repetition and reinforcement of bad behaviors. And what alcohol does when you have no emotional control, for whatever reason, you were raised by, you had no father in your home, so you had no discipline. And if your parents had no control over you and you got around other kids, here we go again, our environment is what affects our reality. And if our friends are our immediate environment, they're going to affect our personality, they're going to affect our thinking, they're going to affect our language. So all these things paint a picture and into the person that we become when we're older. So if we get caught up in drinking and drugs because we want to fit in early, we'll probably try and fit in later on with losers. And that will really be deconstructive. And so there's two ways that we can go in life, and we can go in the route of careers and family, and then we could try and stay in high school for the rest of our lives in the other direction. So, I mean, obviously, some guys that are 30-something years old that are still getting into shit and doing fuck shit and doing dumb shit. and living the same life 10 years. You go back home and you see these guys are doing the same shit they were doing 10 years ago. And they'll always have the same old stories and same old excuses that they're victims of whatever. And because of that, and I'll give you my own backstory, is because I was arrested too. I was drunk as shit. I was in not that any of this is an excuse. None of this. I drank every drink I drank. So anything that happened at that point forward was my responsibility and my fault. It doesn't matter if I fell into a hole. I was stupid enough not to look. So you see what I'm saying? I might have not dug that hole, but I sure as hell fell in it because I wasn't looking. So I'm to blame for falling in the hole. I'm not a victim. It just means that I drank every drink I drank, and I chose to pick that damn thing up. And every single time I picked it up, I always got in trouble. So if I decided at that point I didn't want to drink anymore, that spirit, which is what alcohol is a spirit, a demon spirit that is calling and calling and calling to me, telling me I want more. I need to connect with you. I need to be in part of your life. I'm here. I love you more than anybody. And that's what alcohol does. It gives you this perception. It's a falsehood. It's a fallacy of social lubricancy. And what I watch is guys that have very young, resilient bodies in their 20s, consequently destroying their livers early on, maybe shutting down their own testosterone levels. Which you guys don't know is that every time you drink a beer, you get more and more estrogen in your body. And what estrogen and testosterone does is they're in a constant competition with each other in your ball sack. So if your ball sack is getting shit tons of estrogen responses and so on and so forth, eventually testosterone will eventually be affected. So if you guys want to have higher testosterone, stop fucking drinking. And then another thing is that the estrogenic effects on your muscles makes your muscles smaller and softer. It also makes you emotionally more and more vulnerable. So as you get lower testosterone levels, you get higher estrogen levels. And the more you drink, the more emotional you get. See the correlation? Stay the fuck out of that shit. That's how we get in trouble. So every single time I drank, I never knew this. Nobody told me all this about alcoholism, is that you make emotional responses because A, you're a man, it's masculine, that whose instinct is to fight. But you were raised without a father, so you have no masculine reference. So you default to the masculinity of your mom, which is an emotional, outrageous hell of a mother. So you don't know how to emotionally respond. Anyway, we end up in these institutions either by the jail system, the court system, or by voluntarily saying, fuck this shit, my life sucks, I quit, I don't want to do this anymore, so I want to go to some place. Some people choose to go to like rehab. And if you are rich enough to go to rehab, you could do that. You can always go to rehab and pay the $30,000 to sit in there for 30 days and learn the same damn thing. Oh, by the way, when you go to rehab, they do take you to the same AA meetings that they rely upon for actual work in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, or NA for a lot of you guys, or whatever. So why I don't go anymore is pretty logical. I'm down in Mexico now, and Mexico and Latin America in general does have AA culture, but it's very, very different than you'd say North American or European AA culture. And if it was military AA culture, it'd be totally different, because talk about anonymous as anonymous could possibly be. So, but anyway, I don't go anymore because I'm not in the U.S. I'm not in the U.S. and I'm not interested in going to AA here, because AA here is straight jail. Meaning, if you go to jail for whatever, if you get arrested in Mexico, I don't know how you could get arrested in Mexico. You got to be doing something really, really, really fucking dumb to get arrested in Mexico. However, just like the States, if it's something that's a minor offense, but it's pretty serious and you were alcohol related, they might send you to like the court, and then that'll be like your excuse. And then what they'll do is they'll put you in a program for like a year. But at the end, you just have, at the end of that will be part of your probation. So that's why in Mexico, if you hear about AA, it's usually jail AA, meaning dudes live there, as in like men's halfway houses. And I've yet to ever see a woman in AA jail. Only seen men, 100% men all the time, because they're the ones that commit most of the crimes, and they usually get drunk as shit when they do it. So the AAs here are complete. It's an institution. It's 100% an institution. However, they do it very much as like a religious institution, I think. And I think there's a combination between the Catholics that do a lot of the money stuff and then the evangelicals that do like educational stuff. I don't know how they operate. I don't know. But all I know is it's not like AA meetings in the States. It's not like meetings on cruise ships or casinos or any of those places. So anyway, that is a logical reason why I don't go. But when I go to the States, I don't go anymore either. Because what I've observed from a distance now, I'm sober now. This is the March. I got sober on the 19th of March, 2002. Okay, that was 22 years ago on the 19th of last week. Last week? Yeah. So it was a week or two ago. And so now what I observed is, because I wasn't in the US and I wasn't part of any kind of like subculture of halfway houses and, you know, men's homeless shelters or VA or anything like that, or veterans, I was no longer associated with Veterans Court anymore. And if you guys don't know what Veterans Court is, there's a guy named Roy Foster who ran the Stand Down House down in South Florida. And he was CNN's Hero of the Year for homeless veterans. And so Roy himself was also a homeless veteran. I was a homeless veteran. And so Roy started an institution after he got sober after a period of time. And so instead of the courts taking dudes and punishing them for minor offenses and ruining their careers and lives, and if a homeless veteran, I'm just going to tell you guys this, just because a veteran is homeless doesn't make him a criminal or mental or anything like that. Some of us just come back and can't get back into society. It just doesn't work. And our families do not understand and don't want anything to do with us, because you got to understand that nobody understands or gives a fuck about you if you come back with some mental illness from the fucking military. No one cares. They want you to go away. That's their solution. Go the fuck away. So I'm saying, if you break your arm, feel bad for you. If you had cancer, oh no, people feel sorry for you. But if you come back with a mental illness, oh, stay away from that guy. He's fucking crazy. See what I'm saying? There's a stigmatism attached to anything that has to do with that now. So regardless if you're capable or not capable, it's true in the court of public opinion, and especially with your opinionated family members. So like I said, wash your hands and move away, and you will eliminate yourself from being part of any generational curse. You see what I'm saying? I see a generational curse as the criticism put upon other family members who want to get better in life. I'll repeat it, because the crab bucket mentality is most people's families. People always say that, oh no, they don't want you to see me getting better. Nobody supports anybody else. Family members don't support fucking anybody, because they want you to stay the same mediocre self that you used to be. Your family members are your worst critics, because they haven't been shit. And if they have been shit, it's been past tense. Ask yourself this question. Take a look at your dad. Just take a good, straight look at your father. Is he an example of financial literacy that has been pocketing and cashing in and making interest on investments your entire life that you've seen? Is he an example of physical masculinity? Like, he has not quit going to the gym. He still runs 10Ks when it comes around. Is he one of these guys that dresses nice Or does he look like a bum? Does he look like an overweight piece of shit? Is he drinking around the clock? Is that what you want to be? Because, like I said, there are two versions of what we were raised with. The image of our fathers that we thought was masculine is not. Most of the dudes that we were raised with were simps, if we were raised by our fathers at all. So our impression of men and our impression of our father is equal, if not opposite, to our vision or our image of God. So when you come into AA, the first thing that you learn is that this is all about God. Because what we're facing is a spiritual sickness that has come from constantly giving ourselves a poison, a spiritual demon in the form of a poison that is addictive, that if we don't drink it, we don't feel good. In fact, I don't feel good unless I have 2 or 3 drinks before I go to any social engagement. I don't feel good about myself going on a date and having confidence with a woman unless I have 2 or 3 drinks before or whatever. I don't feel confident on going and walking up and talking to low-hanging fruit sitting at a bar who's by herself with a jabbar fly unless I have a couple of drinks. And then eventually that spills over into the rest of life to where now you have gone over that invisible line to which we lose all sense of control, all sense of restraint. And now we're at the point where just feeding this miniature monster that is just feeding our egos temporarily, thinking that we're not that bad when we really are that bad. In fact, if you look in the mirror, very soberly look in the mirror and say to yourself, righteously, I look terrible and I need to do better with my life, because now people are starting to notice that I look physically different because of my drinking. Now you really want to take some advice, old professor here, is that exchange one addiction for another. And if you were like me and weren't raised right, you were raised by alcoholics or constantly around drug addicts and bad people, then you're going to always want to default back to what you knew as a child of drug addicts and play the victim over and over again until that cycle ceases. And the only way to stop that is either A, a spiritual experience, or B, some kind of psychological or medical experience, so that there's something to fall back on when the one type of addiction stops, because another addiction is going to start. Because there's that part of the brain that is, unless it's got reset or something like that, with some kind of medication or deep therapy, and then followed up by more and more therapy and medication and meditation, all that stuff, you're just going to default back to your natural state, which is to be the perpetual victim of other alcoholics. So if you're an emotional person, you may very well become the victim of what we would call codependency. And so that your mother and father were alcoholics, so you saw them as cool because of your parents. But then you didn't realize that people talk behind their backs. You didn't realize how your parents were in those scenarios as an adult, and you're not in their presence, just how much fuckery they did. You don't know what lies they told. So what I'm saying is that spirit that you take in your body takes over your brain and your emotions and uses you like a fucking sock puppet to say and to do destructive things that you think seem to be positive and are actually very negative. And as a result, A, you get fat, B, you have no emotional control, C, it affects you permanently. And you could get addicted and do stupid shit. You could very well possibly mix those things with other drugs such as benzodiazepine and have no memory of what you might have done and end up in jail having had a DUI involving a death. And that would be very, very bad, because many of you wouldn't survive jail if you went to jail. even if it was county. But I knew a woman who crashed into a family and killed 3 people, and she was the daughter of a billionaire, granddaughter of a billionaire, and she still did 5 years in Arizona. And that's one of the nastiest prison systems you'll ever want to be in. Cockroaches and just horrible, horrible, nasty, low, bad people. And here she is coming from this fancy, well-to-do family, and she crashed her car into a family and killed 3 people. She did 5 years in prison, regardless of how much money. And she had David fucking Roth as her attorney. If you guys don't know, that's the dude that defends like cartel members that get, that mow people down and get caught with bazillion kilos of drugs and shit in Miami. So if he couldn't get her off, Jesus Christ couldn't get him off. Going back to what I was saying about veterans is that when we instituted the Veterans Court, the whole intention was to give these men mentors. Because if you cannot assimilate back to, civilian life after having been in the military, having been in combat, and maybe picked up an addiction, alcohol, for example, can screw up your life real quick. So veterans definitely needed something other than regular jail to go to when we got locked up. And we needed something that wasn't part of a system that just sucked us into probation and sucked us into, mandatory sign this AA meetings and stuff like that. But instead put us with other people, with other veterans that have had gone through horrible, PTSD related incidents and, had gotten over alcoholism or drug addiction in order to have a really, really normal, productive life. So we came up with the concept of the Veterans Court in West Palm Beach, Florida. And so I was there. I was part of the first part of it. And so it was an honor and a privilege to be able to go before the judge and say, yes, Your Honor, I've been sober for this long. I'm a combat veteran. And yes, I did serve 2 tours in the military. And I did get honorably discharged. And right now, I'm just now celebrating blah, blah, blah years of sobriety. And what I'm offering is that instead of prosecuting minor offenses for veterans, we give them an opportunity to be, instead of under supervision of the court and the state, you would have someone who is a sober individual that represents a part of the responsible veterans community who is not obligated by any court system to do it, but they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart. And if a veteran steps up and is willing to mentor 10 other veterans who are trying to get over alcoholism via the program of Veterans Without Borders, that veteran is going to be removed from that environment temporarily in order to be around sober people long enough to develop that spiritual connection between other men. And so that they can they're feeling disassociated because no one can feel the way they do. They're feeling, rejected, and they're feeling abandoned. So instead of throwing their asses in jail and holding them in fucking cold storage, we get them out of the jail system completely and not even have probation and not even have a fucking charge because it's not even worth your time or the state's money or the court's time. So what we do is after 6 months, that mentor has worked with that veteran that whole 6 months time and has been able to mentor him over the telephone, over, over Zoom or whatever, and goes to, instead of these mandatory AA meetings, he's taking meetings himself with another mentor into the VA hospital where there are alcoholics that are in the drunk tank. And those guys are recovering from every kind of thing. And so they only go for an hour and it's once a week. So during their time, they're talking to their mentor the whole week, but the mentors aren't, like in public here so that you can go into AA meetings and go, hey man, I'm blah, 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 asshole. I'm an alcoholic and go through this whole war story shit. so that you could get a pat on the back about how strong and brave you are, or in order to showboat in front of people how well you're doing financially because of getting sober, which is a bunch of shit too. Because that'll change, that'll fluctuate. You got to better damn believe me. I was the richest guy working fucking roofing in June and July in Miami wearing Gucci shoes. Okay, up on the fucking roof, mopping tar on a roof. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I had to keep something from the legacy, right? Del Gucci shoes. Because if you are an alcoholic or a drug addict or whatever, and you end up in the system, and it is just a system. And some of you guys are used to riding the system and getting in and out of jail and getting in and out of institutions and, you know, getting off early and going to AA instead, you know, ducking and covering is hiding out, not fixing yourself, not getting emotionally adjusted, just looking for any way out and not fixing yourself. See, the alcoholics are one of those people that they will rather change their environment than change their fucking behavior. And that was me. I was definitely a drunken pirate for a long, long time. But then I stopped being a drunk, but I was still a pirate. And so I still behaved like a dipshit. I had no emotional control. And then I had to read this other book that was part of the men's house I was in. And it was called Staying Sober. And it talked about post-acute withdrawal syndrome, or PAWS. And I read that book and I was like, oh my God, I'm literally fucked. Because it isn't just AA meetings that's going to keep you sober. And I was like, I literally hit the jackpot when I stumbled across one little thing. And I suddenly realized that level of gratitude and equal in proportion to my level of peace in life, and that the more and more I complained, the more and more in reverse life got for me. Because being an alcoholic in recovery, where you're around weak people all the time and you're associating with people that are constantly relapsing, is that if you hang around people like that, it's like hanging around in the barbershop. If you hang around in a barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. And so I don't want to be around people that are constantly relapsing and constantly on the fence and not if they want to be sober or not. Because it's like being on keto. Some of you guys want to get in shape, but don't want to go through the suffering and all you think about, you default to the day that, when's your cheat day? You don't think about how many grams of protein you got to take in every day. You know, how many carbs you got to take in out post-workout. You don't think about how many hours, you need to wait to intermittent fast. You don't think about that shit because you're not used to keto diets or stuff like that. You're used to like starvation diets that don't work or shit like that. No, we're talking about doing bodybuilding level shit. That's like Olympic level anti-aging stuff. So the whole concept of losing weight and all that stuff is completely wrong. So when I don't think about drinking, it's like me not thinking about eating fucking donuts. It's not part of my life. Because I know that, folic acid for us half autistic retards cannot metabolize folic acid. And that would make us foggy and brainy or whatever, or we talk too much. So any of you guys that have that issue and so on and so forth, drinking alcohol is not going to help you. It's going to make you worse. And having a shit diet is not going to help you if you go to the gym, because you can't outwork a fucking bad diet. And if you're adding these stupid excessive calories, drinking alcohol, thinking that you're sober still, you're still fucking stupid because you're poisoning your brain, which is why you make bad decisions. The other part of it is that Alcoholics Anonymous is, as an institution, it is a form of brainwashing because it takes about 90 days to brainwash a person, which is why they tell you to go to 90 meetings in 90 days, including Saturdays and Sundays, just like going to the gym. You know what I'm saying? You got to go every day. You're not going to go without food, so you're not going to go without training if you want the benefits of the training. You're not going to get the benefits of Alcoholics Anonymous if you don't go to meetings. So in my case, like I said, we wanted to institute mentors instead of Alcoholics Anonymous, because Alcoholics Anonymous, in my opinion, is now corrupted just like the churches. And so instead of talking about the solution of alcoholism, which is a spiritual solution to a problem, they are defaulting automatically to institutions that hold men in containers, basically, for 9 months to a year at a time at a rap of 30,000 US dollars a month charged to a person's insurance company. So you see my problem with that. Now they incentivize people getting off of drugs because of some shit they did that they should have taken responsibility for. But instead of getting a mentor and fixing the spiritual problem that only a mentor could do, just like a father would do, and giving out discipline to those who need it, and encouraging men to read books like the Bible and other instruction manuals, and not just that, but also getting into things that are going to improve their brains in order to do business, maybe getting into something that, like, besides bodybuilding, maybe something that is like CrossFit, or something that could help them in a future job, like becoming a firefighter. So there's all these reasons why I don't go to AA, but there's another reason why too, and it is because AA doesn't work, because it certainly does work. But there's also a subculture of people that don't have your best interest at heart. And that is the subculture of the criminality of a lot of people in AA. And that is the people that are in and out of jails, and they're institutionalized. So those are not your friends. And there's a lot of people that want to come to you after you've been sober for a while and say, hey, man, I like the way you talk, and maybe you could run me through the big book. But they're just time wasters, because you know them by the fruit they bear as time wasters, because all they do is waste your time. They talk a good game, but it's the same story. It's like listening to modern women talking about how bad men are and how we abandon them, and that we're alcoholics and we cheat or we beat them, when we've done none of the above. And they're talking about the ghosts of their ex-boyfriend's past that they opened their legs for in trauma response. So you can see we're always going to be to blame. It's always going to be Jermaine's fault, regardless. So I'm not telling anyone to sit up here and cry and be a bitch and stuff like that. No, take responsibility for yourself by getting a mentor and not talking about it. Because showboats in AA don't help other people get sober. Because it's easy to sit up there and lie and tell stories and, and try and make yourself big shot and all that stuff. But that's just ego. And that's the opposite of what it takes to stay sober. And that is to destroy the ego. To get rid of all things that are external for our own validation. And if you are battling with something like the spirit of alcohol that will possess a man, then you got a spiritual problem. And I think that only a relationship with God can fix that. Not a relationship with a new chick that looks hot and you start banging, then you stop going to AA and then you relapse. That's what I'm talking about. That girl's not going to help you. But you think that by filling that void emotionally for a temporary bit of time, it's going to help you. It's just going to put you right back to square one, which is why I say for a whole year or more, stay by yourself. If you need to go get laid, you know what to do. Be busy doing other shit. That's why I tell guys, come down to Mexico. There's a number of solutions that are available for alcoholics that just can't stop, that don't exist in the States. And so I'd like to wave my magic wand or whatever and say abracadabra, come on down to Mexico. In 5 days, you'll walk away a sober man, and I wouldn't be lying. But you'd have to make some major drastic changes from there on out that AA can't offer you. AA can offer you other losers to hang out with and eventually relapse with, because that's what it takes. But it also takes mentors who have time in service in order to help other veterans or other alcoholics to stop drinking and stay stopped. And that what leads me right into church, because some of you guys are not going to go the AA route and you're going to go the church route. And I know many of you that when you go to a men's halfway house or you're court ordered to a place, that you're stuck in the Bible. You're like, oh no, I'm not going to do that whole AA stuff because it's a cult. I'm going to go back to Lord Jesus and I'm going to read the Bible. And the minute they step out of the rehab, that Bible goes out the window and picks up the wild turkey or the Colt 45, or what was my favorite one? I can't remember anymore. It's Steel Reserve 211. Is it 211? 211 Steel Reserve. It had like some ridiculous, it was malt liquor. The reason why you buy malt liquor because it was bigger, was cheaper, and it had higher volumes of alcohol in it. Now look into that and listen to why there was malt liquor and then there was regular beer for white people, because they wanted to institute malt liquor into the black community in order to cause provocation. Because just like American Indians, black Americans cannot metabolize alcohol like everybody else. Which is why there's higher levels of addiction in certain groups, and there are certain that aren't. If your family members have Germanic blood, meaning I don't care what color you are, melanated or not, if you go and get a DNA test and it says that your family members go all the way back to Germany, the chances of you catching HIV is 0. That's right, 0, because the HIV virus was designed so that Germans can't get it. Amazing, right? So just take that in mind, that if you're an American Indian in your family, you just happen to be melanated, doesn't matter. You might be Cherokee Indian, Blackfoot, or whatever, Apache Indian. Guess what? You can't metabolize alcohol. That's why there's like an 87% alcoholism rate in the indigenous community in the United States. Didn't know that, did you? So there's all these reasons why alcoholics that drink don't do well. And you need to have friends in your life, not chicks, not rehab dudes, people who have been around for a while, because there are other things to do in life rather than just work and drink and spend money and be around losers. Okay, there's some other things that life. That's why we used to have hobbies back in the day, fellas. All right. And guys, you know what I've been doing? You see my videos, you see me every day, and I'm working on something, because I have to have activities in order to be okay with myself. And even if I'm not actively doing an activity, I'm actively working on myself by doing meditation every day. All right. I'm studying every day. I'm doing my lectures every day. I'm writing my messages. I'm working out every day. I'm at the park. And then I'm not down there I'm with these old fuddy-duddies. I'm doing with kids too, guys in high school. And now we're doing jiu-jitsu at night. And jiu-jitsu is good for you, especially if you're old. And lifting weights every morning with a bunch of dudes. I'm like, look, if you want to live longer, go lift weights. Go lift weights. I'm telling you, resistance training is proven to be better than any medication for depression. It's proven true. This year, they proved it. And so I'm telling you guys is that if you go through a breakup, don't drink over it. Go to the gym. Because breakups make bodybuilders big time, guys. And if you want to get biceps, I mean, I'm not, look at that, you guys. Check it out. 51, what's up? Can you do better at 51? 6-pack all day, baby. So what are we going to do instead of going to church? If you're telling me that the church is corrupted and there is no, I just say this, guys, you yourself as a man has to be the example for the next generation of men. Because if the Mongols came into the United States at this moment and there were no samurais to protect the people, they would roll right the fuck over the entire population of people in the United States. The women would be enslaved immediately, and that whole strong and independent bullshit would go right out the goddamn window. Because if war happened in the U.S., there would be no feminists. There'd be victims in mass. And that would be the end of it. There would be no discussion of whether or not you like a girl's fingernails being 3 inches long. There would be no argument over why a girl doesn't have girls' nights out. Because the danger is there real. What's up, Uncle Jackie? Man, it's always good to see these guys checking in. They're getting after it early. I got to get after it early too, fellas. And I want to tell you that do not forsake the assembling of thyself together, which means that you may need to go. Excuse me. You may need to go and assemble yourselves together by going on podcasts, getting out the Bible, getting with other like-minded men. Listen, I swear a lot. And if that offends you, there are other podcasts and live streams where people don't say the F word and don't tolerate bullshit. Or they do tolerate bullshit. So just like the churches and just like the AA meetings, we're not going to water this message down. And that is that alcoholics, not people who smoke weed. Let's get that bullshit right out of the way, right off the bat. All right. If you're a guy and you smoke weed and you find it beneficial to you, then my hat's off to you. Okay. It made me paranoid. I didn't like it too much. And I don't find it therapeutic for me personally. But it might work for you. Great. I'm happy for you. Because some guys have to have something. Me, on the other hand, I used steroids. Some guys smoked weed. I used steroids. That helped me to blow myself up to Olympic levels where I was actually able to compete. I felt better about myself physically on the outside. However, it didn't work on anything on the inside. So when shit hit the fan, here I am not having anything to fall back on except a bitch or several bitches, because that's all I had attracted, because that's all I had worked on was my physical appearance. So I could have, nice stuff and a fancy car and a hot girlfriend, only to find at the very end that the bitch cheated on me. That girl stole my fucking Mercedes that had leaks out the ass that were very expensive, and that the house that I owned wasn't even mine. So as you can see, that alcoholics that drink don't do well, but alcoholics that go to AA and just play the game don't do well either. Or people who go to church or just play church or just hiding out in church or just hiding out because they're on probation. You need to get around other guys that aren't on probation. You get around other guys that have been on probation and said, yeah, you know what? Well, that life sucks, and that keeps you broke, and that keeps you hostage to a system that is made to keep you inside of it. So why not do the smart thing and hang around other people who know better than you, instead of comparing us all, saying, well, it's easy for you to say, Professor, because you're fucking rich. Wow. It's easy for you to say because, where you come from, the people who look like you. But that's not true, okay? Because I am from another country that isn't rich, okay? I'm from another public system of communism that made people starve at night. So, and to say that I was not a slave or whatever, where do you think the word Slavic comes from? When the Slavic people were enslaved from the 12th century to the 14th century, I am Slavic, okay? So anyone who says, oh, my ancestors, fuck that. If you want to get mad about that and compare me to you, we could go all day around this. I will destroy any argument you could possibly have. We're all Americans. None of us have been enslaved. And I'm not going to live a victim either. So if you want to play that card, that's a colorism game that I don't want to be a part of. Because here's what they want you to do. They want you to hate each other for what you look like because of some other motherfucker did to some other motherfucker who looked like me. That's what they want you to do. They want you to be mad at the dude that looks like me because of some shit that other motherfucker did to some other motherfucker that looks like you. So that we continue with this perpetual bullshit against each other, because the one thing I've learned about white supremacists is that it infuriates them for us to be allies. It infuriates them it makes no sense anymore. I look at it as it's all been a trick. It's all been a setup. Since World War II, everything has been a setup to cover up our history. And just recently, Russia discovered these in the archives of Russia. By the way, they have vaults, huge vaults that have 5, kilometers of nothing but old documents and stuff that was stolen from the Library of Alexandria before it was destroyed. So if you guys don't know, Romans ruled the world, and they had books from the Ethiopians. These Ethiopian books, when they opened them up, were all of the saints and all of the people from the original church. And when they looked at those pictures, they were like, hey, wait a minute, hang on now. Why are all these saints black? Well, because people in Ethiopia at that particular time were carrying that same message of Christ all over Ethiopia and converting people to Christianity away from worshiping the fucking moon. And so the Ethiopians were the ones with Christianity before the Europeans, because at the time of Europe, everyone was a barbarian. No one could read. So all these Europeans who jump all over my ass and say, yeah, well, they're not smart and all that shit, and how could they have had the Bible before us because we're sophisticated? No, you weren't. Europeans were living in squalor at the time. And if you were lucky enough to live beyond the age 25 years old, you were an outlier. That was a miracle if you lived beyond. So don't give me this bullshit about how you know. You don't know. In fact, nobody fucking knows. Nobody alive knows today what people were like. Now we have discovered all these archives showing pictures of people painted, the saints that carried on the message of Jesus Christ in Ethiopia were surprisingly black. And you know what? I thank God for those black people, because they carried that message that got to me and other people who look like me. So thank you for all those black people who carried that message of Jesus Christ, so that this guy who looks like me could have a savior, that when I die, I can go to heaven. Okay? Enough said about that. But he took it a step further, because he gave me a solution to a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body over the spirit of alcohol. Like I said, guys, that spirit is in the bottle. The spirit is inside the physical bottle itself. So if you can just avoid that thing and say, as long as I don't put this shit here, I don't fuck up. And you know what? I was thrown out of every single VA homeless center, from Miami to fucking Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, Lantana, Jupiter, all the way to fuck up to Satellite Beach, because I couldn't stay sober. And then I finally ended up at the fucking back docks at the VA hospital, laying on my fucking side. And it was raining that day, and the whole dock's all muddy and shit. And all my fucking side of my face is covered in mud. And a guy named Gordon Broom, and he was deaf. And Gordon came outside, and he saw me on the ground, and he sees me laying there, and he says, you, every single time you come here, you're always in trouble. And I say, yes, sir, Mr. Broom. He says, well, what's the matter now? I said, well, I had this and that and this and that, and I'm coming up with all these damn stupid excuses of why I got drunk again. And he cut it to short, and he says, you know what? Every single time you drink, you get in trouble. Every time. What's the 19th time you've been locked up for being drunk in public and fighting in public? In how many countries? And now here you are on my doorstep trying to talk to me about what a good guy you are. Talking about what a good dude you are and how you're going to do better, and you promise that you're going to do better next time. And yet, here you are again. He goes, I'm going to do something for you that someone should have done to you a long time ago. And that's tell you the truth. because no one really gives a shit about you. Okay? That hurt my feelings real bad. Because I actually thought Mr. Broom liked me and I thought he cared about me. Because every time I went there, he always gave me bags of canned goods, and I'll go back out to the woods with all the rest of the homeless veterans, and we'd fire it up, but we would drink and panhandle until we had about $5, and we would go get natural ice or something, and we would drink them, and then we would go back to the halfway house, and everybody would go to sleep. And so the cycle continued over and over and over again for us homeless veterans that just didn't know what to do because we kept taking in the poison of the spirits. See what I'm saying, guys? Every time I picked it up, I always got in trouble. And that is when Gordon Broom hit me with the logical truth. He says, every single time you get drunk, you get in trouble. So why don't you stop drinking and you'll stop getting in trouble? And I thought, this guy's goddamn genius. And you know what? I had to live with the next 5 years of being stigmatized, going to court, battling with my ex-wife for custody over my daughter. Her coming back and saying every time, well, he's a drunk and he's an asshole and a cheater. And the last time he saw me, he had his shirt, it was like this, and his underwear had all his lipstick in it, and he smelled like a brewery, and he left on Thursday for a pack of cigarettes, and he didn't come back, and he said he went to work, but he didn't. And so my first sergeant had to come get me out. There's a number of things, a number of reasons why you would want to stop. But the spirit that I insisted on thinking I could beat every time, because I couldn't metabolize the spirit, because I would put it into me. I would put her into me. I'm going to call this a female spirit, because that seems to be the only thing that fucks us men up as females anyway. Female spirit, I take it in, and then all of a sudden, my mind and my spirit are now one with this thing that is made to kill me and steal from me and destroy from me. I cannot think of one positive thing that ever came out of me drinking. Not once. Because every relationship I ever had was based on drinking, always ended up very bad. Ended horribly bad. Every time I ever got into a fight when I was drunk, I always knocked my teeth loose or I always got a black eye. There was no positive thing that came out of that. There was no sparring match where I learned something or connected with another dude, became like his bro from sparring match. No, I just made myself look stupid in front of a bunch of people in public. And then I got to explain to people the next day why I got a busted lip, my nose all fucked up and I got a black eye. That's not admirable. It gets to a point where you get too old, like you get too old for fucking doing this shit. And then it's too late for you. Then you've fallen into a spiral of this subculture of AA and NA that unless you go regularly, you might drink again. So you understand what I'm saying to you guys of why we need our friends with us and not women when it comes to dealing with addictions, because they don't deal with shit the way we do. I think it's worse for women when they're alcoholics because they go down faster. Their looks go down way fast. They look all haggardly real quick. I knew a girl was like 24 years old, dude. She looked like she was 45. And she was so pretty when I met her. She was like 20-something years old, but she was, one of those girls that was in AA and you saw she had tattoos, so she looked pretty easy and shit. And so she was like that, first phase boner fixer. And she was a tattoo girl. And she went out with this guy named John. And John was a raging alcoholic, but he was also codependent. And he only hung around chicks in AA. He didn't hang around dudes. And of course, he was, shaboinking all of them. And he was just, bragging to all of us, but whores they were. So he did all the stuff to change everything on the outside to look good for the girls for every meeting. And he's got the, the cologne spray and stuff. And, it's got the blingy bling. Wearing bling always is important when you go to an AA meeting so girls can see what time it is. Always a good thing, right? Because it's how important it is to. And there, when you get to AA meetings, you want to be sure that you are the second speaker You know what I mean? So you could showboat how great it is you are, being in 6 months sobriety or whatever, and after the meetings, of course, you want to ask out all the pretty girls so you could go on a date later, ride up on the fucking bicycle to the fucking movies. What are you supposed to do? That's what I'm saying. It's like you want to be in AA and be that. That's okay. I'm not part of it anymore. It worked for me when I was there in my life. But there gets to a certain point where those problems don't exist anymore and they're not a part of your life. It's like I said, going back to the ketogenic diet, once you start eating a certain way, you just don't think about eating junk food anymore. The very thought of us going through a Burger King drive-through and ordering something that's in bread just doesn't make any sense at all. Because you know you're going to feel like dog shit later. And if you got a six-pack at 51 years old, and I told you, hey, if you only ate chicken every single day, you'd get a six-pack in a month, you'd eat chicken every day for a fucking month. You wouldn't go. There would be no temptation because the rewards are clearly there. But then you do the marshmallow test with the 2 kids, and you say, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a marshmallow now, but if you wait for an hour, you can have 2. Then you'll find out that 60% of the children in that group study took the marshmallow that was placed in front of them first, when the rest of us waited for an hour and got additional marshmallows, unlimited marshmallows afterwards. So as you can see, there's a connection between addiction and low IQ or anything like that, but there is a connection between your ability to put the cup down and not pick it up again because you know it's dangerous. Instead, replace this with another addiction, which I would say go to the gym, start doing some activities or having some kind of a hobby. Right now, my hobby is going to start doing every single day. I'm going to be doing these short podcasts, and I'm going to apply these life lessons because if you do these, you will live longer. And I don't do this to showboat or tell, brag or anything like that. It's not to impress you because it just impresses the shit out of me how good the results have been. Because I'd rather save my money. How much is I haven't bought a bottle of whiskey in so many years that I don't even know what they cost anymore. So let's say it costs $20 and you had one a day for 5 days, it's $100. So I take that $100 and I invest it into myself. So I managed to do 10 times the business in half the time. Now I'm getting 80% of my money for doing 20% of the work. So you fucking see what I'm saying, you guys? Stop drinking and stop doing 80% of the work, getting 20% of the results. And that's all you got to do. If you do this, put this down just today, not any other day. Decide after you get off work that I'm not going to go and stop by and get a couple of hooks on the way home. I'm not going to stop by and get that paper bag. I don't need it. I don't want this. I don't need this. I'm going to pray to the Most High that I don't have the temptation today. Because God said there is no temptation too great that is not common to man, that he has not given us the means of escape. I got to say it again because I don't know the verse. I just remember it when I was in the church, when I was studying my Bible every day, when I was doing the right thing. There is no temptation too great that is not common to man, that the Lord has not given us a means of escape. And what that does is it builds up your resistance to your own biology, because your own biology is actually against you. Your own ego is against you. And it tells you, oh, I sure do have a hunger in my stomach for an XYZ liquor right now. And I sure would like this. I want to know what the hell happened. They have vodka now that tastes like cotton candy and all that shit. I don't know where that vodka was. Where was all this cool shit when I was out there drinking? Now they're giving people like, I don't know, man. It seems to me that they push and push booze because it's legal when they know that it's poison. Well, anyway, enough about that. The churches, if you're fortunate enough to have a church that's a Holy Ghost-filled, baptized, believing church, Bible-believing church, that does not accept the LGBT eligibility community into their church and says no to do all that stuff, the fuckery, and is not about colorism, but isn't a pandering bunch of dickheads either. Fake people, man. I'm telling you, every single time we got something that God is pushing us towards, fake people come in and screw it up. Fake people want to make money off of it because that's what fake people do. So anyway, the second, third, and fourth part of this thing is that you can level up if you just put the drink down for one day at a time. Number two, if you start meditating every day and hanging out with people online, talking about the Bible and talking about how to make money, then you will start making money. But if you hang out with broke motherfuckers and you talk about broke shit and you do broke shit, then you're going to end up with broke results. So don't get mad at me for fucking not getting results of work you didn't do. Okay? Go to the gym and replace the addiction that you have with food and other shit with learning how to be around others that have better bodies than you. Because you hang around your barrel-ass family, then you're going to look just like them in 10, 20 years. And you'll end up with the same results. You'll die just like them. Or you go and hang around the biggest juice monkeys that are in the gym and get in your best shape of your life. Or when you move your ass overseas and you see brother doing good, living in a nice apartment, dressed nice every day, meeting up with his fine-ass girlfriend, having lunch, you learn to take some fucking cues from people. That, hey, wait a minute, now these passport bros ain't so damn bad now. Oh, I thought it was all about going to the club and throwing money in the air and being stupid with hookers. Who the fuck are you looking at? You got to look around, open your eyes, go down to Medellin, Colombia, go to Poblado. If you go to Poblado and you look around, you're going to see some high-class people. Black guys, white guys, all kinds of people walking around, holding hands, going to nice lunches and living the dream. Dudes on their laptops making money, doing whatever, because they're allowed to work remote now. So they're all about it. They're like, yeah, I'm not even here. Guy actually gave me a pay raise to not work in his office anymore and moved to Medellin. He's been there 7 years now. So take my word for it. It's something that you could do to at least take your step in a further direction away from the problems you had before that you drank over. And the reason why you feel the need to subject yourself to another brainwashing situation, which may or may not have been the Rockefeller Foundation that funded all this shit, to keep us in a perpetual cycle of drinking, not drinking, drinking, not drinking, because AA worked 40, 50, 80 years ago because there was no internet at the time. And do not forsake the assembling of ourselves together means that doesn't mean go to church. It means be online, talking every single topic that we're talking about online, and not being around chicks that have the boobies hanging out in a church, that aren't twerking in church. How embarrassing. That aren't doing all the things that I keep telling you guys, that we in the upper class of alcoholism, we're amongst the elite of alcoholics. So our minds don't operate like normal people. And if you're able to escape through the escape hatch of AA through God, you can now get away from the alcoholism as long as you don't pick up the one thing that you put inside your body in order to fuck it up. It's a spirit. It's a real demon inside a bottle, like a genie in a bottle. Why do you think it's called a djinn? A djinn is a spirit inside of a bottle. When they open it up, you rub the bottle and out comes the genie. It gives you 3 wishes. But they don't tell you the other part of the story is that there's always a payday. And so there's a number of reasons why I stopped drinking, and jail was the first step there, because it was jails, institutions, and death, and I'm not dead yet. So It has been 22 years since the 19th of March, 2002, and I'm pretty good about not drinking anymore. But back to the last subject is that another reason why I have decided to start doing these online podcasts where we assemble ourselves together is because the temptations for guys to flirt with girls that aren't yours. So like I said, man, degeneracy is over, but what happens when the degeneracy is inside the church? Like I said, the way that women dress. If you haven't had a girlfriend for a while and you got no control over your biology because you've been an alcoholic and you go to bars and you pick up the fucking whoriest whores, and then you go to the church thinking you're going to find a conservative girl that's got, up to the neck in materials, and you go there and you see little fucking double D's hanging out. You know what I'm saying? And they got all the fucking fingernails and the eyelashes and the baby doll eyes and all that shit that we're trying to get away from. And here they are up at the church. And they're in there getting their vaginas reinstalled. Because, for me, it seems to me like you're going to go to the church and it's all going to be single mothers that have been in a damn train accident. So I'm going to tell you guys that there's nothing we could do for them. And they have nothing to offer me. What in the hell is a woman like that got to offer somebody like me? Me now, not me 20 years ago. What does a woman like that have to offer a guy like me? Except problems and headache and liability. Look what I just got through. 2.5 years ago, I was able to buy for the first time in my life, the Mercedes that I wanted to buy. And I was able to pay for it cash. Drove it all over Mexico from coast to coast. You know what I mean? 550. It was just a beast. And they had made that 1 mile that 1 year, and I was able to drive it. And it just came off the boat from Germany. And then 2.5 years later, ex-girlfriend stole it from me. Good is that going to do me anymore? And then to get mad about it. That bitch did me a favor. When I said, she was like, I'm going to take your goddamn Mercedes. Like, it's a small price to pay to get rid of you. And it was. But it was also the message that I needed to get the fuck out of the situation I was in. So like I said, guys, there is a plan B. And you know what? God's got his angels are out looking for you right now. And looking out for you, not out looking for you, looking out for you right now. And I mean that, guys. If you are alive right now, it is a miracle that you're alive. And if you're hearing my voice, I'm talking points is that when the Lord speaks through me, he comes to that book of, this is one of the smallest books in the Bible, the book of Hosea. And when you think about it, are you spending your time, working on old shit when God gave you a message a long time ago and said, you need to get on your job, you need to start making beats, you need to start singing again, you need to start writing again, you need to get on your hobby again, because that's what makes me special, that I give you the special hobby, you don't use it. And so what happens is we get older and eventually we live in that regret. So if the angels are looking out for you and they're throwing you all these messages, it's like every time a commercial comes on the TV and it's like for that new headphones that you wanted, take that as a message. Okay, and then the second message I want to tell you is fear not, for the Lord is always with you. That means you need to be aware that the Lord is always with you, is always there to protect you. You put on the full armor of God as you leave your home. And that means that you need to have your headgear on to think right. Okay, your blessed spirit of righteousness cover that heart. The fiery darts of the evil one. And the loincloth, salvation, all these things are going to protect you from one of the three manners that he's going to try and attack you. Because if you're on the Lord's side, expect the shit. And it's coming at me in different ways I wasn't expecting. But we're not talking about super geniuses here. So anyone who wants to give the devil all these accolades and extra superpowers, Okay, you need to stop right now. Okay, you need to stop giving the devil all these superpowers he doesn't have. You know, mind reading abilities and all this stuff. You got to stop it. You're giving the devil place. And the Bible says that to give the devil no place. And if you give the devil no place, that means no place in your head. So when you feel the need to lash out at somebody, just remember something, that that person may be very well demon possessed. And that God put those people in your way as a test for you to take those shots. Because when you're practicing and sparring, it is not like real competition. We're just hitting each other in the head, just a little, about 30%. It ain't for real. So when you do have a real fight, you know how to hit somebody and you know how to take a punch. But every single time the devil hits you, you get on social media and cry about it. That ain't no warrior spirit at all. That just shows that you are not trusting in God at all. You are leaning on your own understanding and your own strength. People tell me all the time, they're like, yeah, but it's so dangerous out there in the street. And I said, yes, it is. But are you really trusting in God for your safety? No, I'm trusting my 9 for my safety. Well, good, because God gave you that 9 for your safety. But you still are only trusting in the 9. You're not trusting in the Lord. I live in a fucking dangerous area. I don't carry a gun. I don't have to carry a gun. I trust in the Lord that much. And you might call me crazy, but I'm not dead yet. And it seems to me like the ones that are getting dead are the ones that are doing all the dumb fuckery shit and not being admirable. And I know there's always those leaders that always get shot. Well, I'm willing to take that fucking risk. I'm willing to be the guy that is so fucking noble and admirable in the neighborhood that people say, "Good morning, professor," to me. That's what I want to be, and that's what I am. Because I'm not that guy anymore. I'm not the guy that got busted last night with lipstick in his underwear, with his shirt buttoned up sideways, drunk as shit, laying in the fucking gutter outside. I'm not that guy anymore. I'm not that guy who's got his face frozen in the fucking ground and throw up in a foot of snow. I'm not him anymore. So I can't be accused of anything I'm not. It doesn't make sense to me. It's like a keto diet. The very idea of me eating a cheeseburger at Burger King, it just doesn't make sense to anybody. The very idea of me picking up a drink. So I'll give you this. Take this with you as you may. Look around. If you see a feather on the street outside, there's an angel nearby. You'll find, now that I've told you the cat's out of the bag, if you're hearing my voice and you're one of us, if you look around outside, you are going to find there's going to be an angel waiting for you. Or maybe inside of an office building, there are no birds and you find a feather. Maybe you'll find a coin somewhere in a public restroom standing on top of the restroom door. That's an angel. And a coin or a feather, anywhere random, is an angel that's nearby. And I used to not believe this stuff, but since I got to Mexico, I found that supernatural stuff is actually kind of weird and fun. Got a couple of people have taken pictures of me, and there was an angel next to me and it had feathers and everything. And I was like, well, doubly, that's got to be some kind of a reflection or something. And I looked very closely, and they are little feathers about this big, and they're whiter than white could possibly be, but you could see the outline of these feathers that are clearly next to me, and they're way above my head. So it's all the way like next, and I'm putting up curtains. And the other one was about 2 or 3 years ago, again, feathers, but these were purple and white. So they were like the prettiest color purple I'd ever seen. And it was like a lightning storm happening. So I thought something was wrong with the camera, but that's bullshit. And then I zoom in and then I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wings. By the way, this thing was taller than a telephone pole with an explosion around it that was like a bolt of lightning came and struck this thing. And at exactly the same time, that's where the person took a picture of me, right? This other big, gigantic angel. So that was 2 times. The third time was the Virgin of Guadalupe appeared to me in Zacatlan, a Catholic deity of the indigenous folklore here appeared to me. And they got mad because I don't understand why they let this gringo see the Virgin of Guadalupe. He's not even Catholic. And they got mad because this thing appeared to me. Then the 4th time is when I was putting out a fire here nearby, and someone took a picture of me, and there was a demon inside the fire. And it had a ring in its nose. So I don't know. I don't know what demons and angels look like, but that just appeared to me to be like a demon. So another person took a picture of me. By the way, these are all on my Instagram. These are all on my YouTube. I'll even post it after this live so you guys can look at it yourself and analyze it yourself. Because I can't tell you, oh yeah, it was definitely a demon or it definitely was an angel, because I don't know. I can't say it is or it isn't. But you might look at it and go, oh yeah, that definitely is, or no way, that's stupid. All I can tell you is what other people have done is they've taken pictures of me standing next to full-blown angels. So there is that. If you enjoyed this, you guys, I want you to do me a favor and hit the like button. It's just good for the algorithm for you guys to you know, be a part of something that is bigger than yourself. AA might be one thing that's good for you when you first get sober, but after a while, you're going to have to grow out of kindergarten. You're going to have to go on to the 1st grade. You're going to have to put your big boy pants on one day. And if you're going to church still, and they're still Bible believing, like I said, and they don't water the stuff down, then that's good too. If not, join me online, because we do not worry about what other people think, because we're going to read this word, and if you like it or not, we're going to take it for what it is, and we're going to not play the color game or anything like the color book or the crayon box and go into that shit, because we come from Park Avenue to the park bench. All right, all we got in common is the Lord Jesus, and we're all men. So anyway, if you enjoyed this, like I said, do me a favor and share this on your social media if you don't mind, because I think some of you guys need to have, you guys have friends that are in AA and in the church that are not doing themselves any favors. So get yourself a mentor, like I suggested. And if you're a veteran and you want to come overseas, look up Veterans Without Borders. I'm the professor, and I'm out.